There was an interesting encounter that I had earlier today. So I enjoy visiting a certain place occasionally, but I had not visited this place in a while. In fact, it has been years since I had made the trip to this special place, which is odd for me to say considering I had made this trip a tradition. Once a year I would go on a voyage, experiencing hardship, overcoming obstacles in order to visit this place. But up until today I had no intention of ever returning. It did not bother me either if I am being honest. I suppose this trip had lost its majesty for one reason or another. It just was not attractive as it once was. What made it so enjoyable was not just the trip or the destination, it was the combination of the two. However, at least once more I would go on this adventure. And if it were to be my last, then it was certainly the most memorable one, for I did not go on this adventure alone. So earlier today after waking up I was feeling well, mainly due to the abundance of sleep I had gotten. You see, when I get enough sleep I feel unstoppable, able to conquer the world, but when I don't I feel so disappointed and unwilling to do anything. Anyways, while having some fruit for my morning meal, I began contemplating what I would like to do for the day. And during this time I considered going to my special spot, although I had not yet committed. Instead, I decided to just go out for a walk and perhaps find a spot to sit and relax. So I washed myself up, got dressed, took some money with me just in case I decided to stay out longer, and then headed out. It was sunny outside with a slight chill. I thought this was perfect weather for a walk. As I walked around my neighborhood, I further contemplated about going to my special place. I went over the pros and cons, the good reasons and the bad reasons, and several what-ifs. As I am thinking to myself, the world around me continued to move forward. It was as if I was in my own world, oblivious to everything else. This is what usually happens when I am in my thinking zone. Eventually I found a metal bench, but instead of sitting on it I decided to just lean against it as I continued thinking. Although I eventually finally decided to sit down. So by this point I was leaning more towards just staying here instead of going to the special area. However, something would occur soon after, specifically an encounter with a stranger. While being lost in thought, I noticed a figure approaching me. However, I did not think much of it and was not interested in what or who was approaching my location. I decided to shut my eyes as to further concentrate on my thoughts, although eventually I could sense the mysterious figure pass by me. I was able to hear its sounds as it passed me, but instead of the sounds becoming gradually silent as it moved away, the sounds would all of a sudden cease. Still I kept my eyes shut tight, not willing to give in the slightest. Then a familiar sound would enter my ears. It was the sound of a person's voice. Not willing to remain oblivious, I finally opened my eyes and I see a completely unfamiliar character standing near, but not in front of me. This stranger was asking unusual questions as if I was obligated to join this conversation, though I suppose I felt so since I did indeed respond to a couple of questions. It seemed he was asking me on a date or something of the sort, which made me feel awkward. This was not at all what I was expecting or wanting this day, but I actually agreed. The only reason I did so was because of where we were supposedly headed to, a familiar place for me. Going on an adventure was not my plan, and I was not too happy about this. I was unsure if he could sense my uneasiness during this moment, but he did not ask or say much initially, which I did appreciate. Honestly, I was feeling like a kid being told to go to school by my parent even though I did not want to. I knew I should go, but I just did not want to. All I could do was think to myself that I just needed to get there and everything will be fine. Deep down I did indeed want to go to where we were going, I was just being stubborn. We took a minor detour to buy some food, and thankfully I had decided to bring some money with me. I did not even want to visualize myself expecting him to provide for me. The rest of the way was the same as before. Not much interaction between us and my being still filled with stubbornness. Almost there, I continued to think to myself. The agony within me up to this point was so unreal that I began to question this decision to go on this trip, as well as question if I ever actually wanted to go. The agony turned into guilt, which turned into resentment. I should not be here with him and I should not be doing this. At this point, I was ready to give up, ready to turn back even after coming all this way. And then I hear something that I was pining for since this journey began. We're almost there. I looked up and although I could not yet see it, I could feel the end. I felt the negativity exiting my very being. Was there ever an experience that was unbelievable to the point that it felt like it never happened? Almost as if it were a dream? I think this usually happens with things that are either so extraordinary or so ordinary. In any case, the next part of my experience feels like a distant memory already, as if it had occurred so long ago. After reaching the desired spot, we stayed there for an uncertain amount of time. Afterwards, we headed back. We then departed from each other at the same point we had initially met. Nothing special had occurred during my experience, but I am glad I had went. I don't feel happy nor do I feel disappointed, I just feel satisfied. And for next weekend I just might go to this special place again. However, this time I won't need any extra encouragement.